Welcome back. I'm Representative Patricia Morgan, and we have with us Don Allen, who is a very concerned parent in Burrillville, Rhode Island, and have been an activist, an education activist. And it's not because you want to be against something, it's because you are there for kids, right? I see that, right? You're very concerned that our children are not getting the education that they need to be thriving, successful adults. And that's the tragedy that is happening in Rhode Island right now. When we look at these scores from the PARCC test, may be flawed, whether it's flawed or not, when you see that 64% of the kids are not proficient, something is wrong. And you know, as a representative, I have the business community constantly coming to me and saying, we have jobs that go looking because we can't find people with the basic skills, and they're talking basic skills of reading, math, thinking. They can't find people to fill these. So what is your ultimate goal? What would you like to see happen? I know that you got parents, you led the charge in Burrillville for people to question the PARCC exam and whether it was valid or not. What's your ultimate goal?
Well, ultimately, I think, obviously, is a better educational system or set of standards. But I think the way to accomplish that is to bring it back to a more localized control. I can point out one example. I mean, the school committees in our state and throughout the country have a lot more autonomy and power than I think they're led to believe. So, for example, in New Hampshire, one town just decided we're not going to do Common Core anymore, and so be it with the consequences. So I think those types of initiatives are important to try and get local communities more involved in education.
But if they don't do Common Core, I mean, I would never want it to get to the point where in Providence they say, well, our kids are poor, so they can't learn as good as the kids in East Greenwich or Barrington. I would never want it to be where they dumb down curriculum or dumb down standards, because whether you're poor or not, I think you can learn.
Right, and teachers need to inspire. I mean, I go back to the Teacher of the Year who in New York school systems, John Taylor Gatto. He taught in Harlem for years, and he was recognized at how successful he was at teaching students of all socioeconomic backgrounds, and so it can be done. And so I really think that you need to make sure that you are getting good quality teachers in the classroom to do the type of teaching, and not have these mandates from the federal government that say that you have to have these certain standards and you have to do things a certain way, because, I mean, yes, everyone needs to know certain things, and we all agree on that, but to suggest that some outside entities that come up with these standards know better than what a local community could do in conjunction with other communities. I'm not saying that any one community would have the monopoly on what's best, but work together. I mean, there's nothing stopping us from using what works.
So you would support having some kind of standard, some kind of standardization in the skills that kids need to move on in their grades and actually graduate. You'd accept that there should be some kind of a standard for everybody.
Oh, wait, there's nothing wrong with that. We've always had some level of standards, right? I mean, everybody pretty much knows what those are. We don't need to have an outside authority saying so, but at the same time, adopting a set of standards, even if they are common to most states for the basics, there's nothing wrong with that. But if they're written in a way that is, either age inappropriate or not incomprehensible, I mean, how is that helpful to students or teachers? So we have to be very careful about some of the underlying issues with how these test scores are going to be used in terms of what they want to do with schools. This newest computer-based education system where students do all of their learning online. I mean, how much time are students supposed to spend in front of a TV screen and just be learning in that fashion? I mean, the interaction between teachers is so important, and
I really think so too. I know that the technology is taking over, and and teachers are posting mini classroom exercises on their
It's a great
websites
tool.
and stuff.
It
It's a
is.
great tool, but nothing replaces the personal contact of a teacher, right? When they can see that kid puzzling over something and they go over and say, okay, what's going on here, right?
Right.
Nothing is more important than that personal touch. So I still believe that there needs to be standards. I don't think maybe Common Core isn't the right one.
I'm not getting away from them at all. No, I wouldn't ever
if
suggest
you don't
that.
have that goal, that everybody has to have these, and they have to be stretch goals, in fact, then
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I don't know if I sound like a broken record when I say, look to Massachusetts. I mean, again, states were put in a bad situation when the economic downturn happened in 2008. And the federal government took advantage of that and told states that you would, be able to get your stimulus money as long as you accept the standards that hadn't even been written yet. What did the states say? Well, yes, we need the money. It's a difficult situation, and so we got ourselves into a bind. So Massachusetts is finally making efforts. The citizens of that state have spoken loudly. 60,000 signatures on the ballot this fall that Common Core standards will be removed, and I would imagine they're going to go back to the standards that made them the best in the country. They had the accountability, and students succeeded.
yeah, they were number one, and I believe once they put Common Core in, they actually fell.
Starting to fall. That's right.
Yeah.
And it says a lot about what, because Sandra Stotsky's pointed out, she says, I didn't close the achievement gap. She's like, I raised everybody up.
Raised everybody up.
Raised
Yeah, that's
everybody
what's
up. I mean,
important.
isn't that what the goal should be? I mean, closing the gap might be okay unless you're bringing the top down to close that gap.
That's right.
And that's the last thing we
That's
want.
not where you want to go, because everybody deserves.
A good education.
They do. They do. I mean, I sound like a broken record. You're sounding like a broken record. I'll sound like one. Without education, to break any kind of poverty cycle, to get ahead in life, you have to have education. You have to have knowledge. And if we're failing kids, 90% of the kids in Providence, what are we doing to our state, to them, to their families, to our workforce? I mean, our companies. It's just it's a downward spiral, and we have to figure it out. So, all right. So, what do you wish? We got 2016.
Well, I can say that this year my name will appear on the ballot for school committee in the town of Burrillville. So I'm hoping that that's one step that I can take, at least locally, to make a difference. I'm hoping that we can watch what happens in Massachusetts and see that they get rid of these standards, and that will send a message loud and clear to the rest of the country that if Massachusetts is getting and doing away with these standards, then we should really be paying attention, because they're clearly our problems. And take a page out of their book, and hopefully that could translate to some changes in our state.
At the state level, sure.
That maybe we could adopt something similar to what they have adopted in Massachusetts, assuming they go back to their original standards, and use that as a template to build for a better future for our kids.
Well, that's a really good note, and I'm going to leave our viewers with that. Wish you all a good 2016, and thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me.